everyone, and welcome to Kent State Independent Films Cinematic Strategy Series. This is our third guest of this semester. His name is Philip Matarese. Hopefully I didn't butcher his last name. He's the creator of Animals, co-creator actually. He's been doing a bunch of cool stuff since then. I'm just going to bring him on. Mr. Philip Matarese, thank you, sir, for joining us.
Art, darkness, light, today, tomorrow, yesterday, yes, truer day.
You're an auteur.
When you think about the future, you can't help but think about the past. How do you spell past? With a P. It stands for Philip. And an A, which stands for age, and an S, which stands for sex. What gender you are. Personally, I don't see gender. I don't adhere to those sort of societal what have yous. And T stands for today. Go ahead, Sam. Take it back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was walking over your toes.
No, thank you. I felt like I had to come out with I want to speak to the kids.
It's poetry.
Yeah.
You're riffing, yeah. That's just like how I imagine writing the show went.
Yeah, that amount of work went into writing the show.
I don't know. Some of the dialogue, it just seems like natural, just like what you're doing right here, and it flows and it feels real. So
we did. That's something we wanted to do for Animals. We wanted to have a show that had that form of delivery. And so a lot of it was people just talking,
and
we would beat out a scene and they would come up with the ands and thes and how to deliver it naturally. Even if we ever had lines written out, it was important to us to have them delivered as naturally as possible. I don't like cartoon voices, really. I like people's voices. I like getting interesting quality of voices from all sorts of different age ranges and stuff. Generally I know that's a whole business of VO and VO artists, and it is an art. And anytime we've had someone come on the show that was an art, it is like wild the fact that they can become a different person. But for the sort of stuff I make, I tend to veer towards talking.
Exactly. Before we get into your main course of subject, which is animals, I'm just going to start off with cinema. And like, you probably watch films, Phil, since you're an artistic guy, like you said in your intro. So what was the last film you've seen?
Wow. What did I watch recently? I've caught up on all the Fast and the Furiouses. I watch stuff that is so outside my purview of something I would make. So like really big 90s action, I'll watch a lot of. Speed, Die Hard. I recently watched one called Broken Arrow with John Travolta and forgetting his name. Kind of talks like this. Who's that?
That's before my time. I'm not even sure. That's
kind of tough.
I'm supposed to be a film guy, Phil. I'm sorry.
1 sec. I'll get it in 3 seconds.
Okay.
2, 1. Christian Slater. But some big nukes go missing, all that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of the only films as of late I've really found joy from. Maybe it's such a reprieve from current day society. Like, it feels good to have a bomb on a bus and to know that in an hour it's going to be off the bus. Whereas my whole life, in real life, the bomb's still under the bus and I can't slow down.
And there's another one under the other seat on the other side of the bus, and there's one underneath the top.
You get it?
Left cover.
The bus is a bomb.
Yeah, the whole bus is a bomb.
The whole bus is just a bomb.
You can't get off.
No.
It's crazy. So Yeah,
What
we're
have you
seeing
watched that you liked recently? Give me a reco. Something streamable, please.
something streamable. I have to go. I have a whole list. I catalog every film that I have to go to my notes on my computer.
How do you do it? Do you do Letterboxd?
No, I don't. I signed up for it, but it's just too much of a no. It's too mainstream, Phil.
Oh,
Everyone does it
interesting.
now. So I just have the notes on my phone. Every film since 2018, I just have a
The
list.
indiest thing you can do is the Notes app.
It's
That is,
sad.
that's a small scene.
The two last films I've seen are Stranger Than Fiction, and it's like Will Ferrell's
Yeah.
only dramatic film. So I was really interested in seeing that with.
Huh.
Uh, there's a bunch of great actors in there, and The Devil's Advocate. I never saw it, and it was pretty good. I always wanted to see it.
Oh, right. Right.
All different stuff.
Interesting.
Stranger Than Fiction. I think you'd like it, Phil, if you've never seen it.
Have you seen from when you said Devil's Advocate, I thought
Yeah,
at first you meant Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Have you seen that?
I love horror. I've not.
Not even horror.
It's not.
An incredible Sidney Lumet directed it. Philip Seymour Hoffman is great in it. Ethan Hawke is great in it. I took one film class in college and they showed it in that, and it's very, very good. It's awesome. Just brutal though.
Yeah,
It's like a
yeah,
brutal kind of like thriller, I guess.
Huh.
A really, really good movie.
I have some relationship with that. I don't know how. It twings some sort of string in my brain, but I don't know how I know it. But I will definitely check that out, Phil, when I
Give it
can
a check.
find it. Hopefully, it's on one of these streaming services.
It looks like Action Max. Maybe HBO Max has it.
HBO Max. Well, that's the home of also animals. So there you go. What's your alma mater? You touch upon that, Phil. I was wondering. I couldn't find it. Trying to find out some more information about you. And what did you study at your alma mater? Because I'm sure it wasn't animation, right?
No, I studied kind of for most of college. I was anxious and didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was just like vaguely undeclared. And then I studied advertising because it was kind of like a safe version. I knew I always wanted to write and be creative and make stuff, and advertising is kind of a safe businessy backgroundy place to it just seemed like you can get a job writing versus just taking a big swing and being a writer and having it wholly be on my back. So I studied advertising. It was fucking stupid, but the my first curse, I was trying not to, but the advertising copywriting, and it did like push a lot of good buttons in my brain of just making something and making a project and packaging and all these sort of things that came into fruition later when I, now when you pitch a show, it's basically making a little project and learning how to present it to someone and packaging it so it looks like a thing already, so people want to buy it.
Yeah, so you a lot to learn just from something that isn't directly involved in your major, but now it does, in a way, contribute a lot to and helps you create and format your ideas in a way. And
yeah, I think any major can help you creatively. Most of life is deadlines, and learning how to work within them, and even if it's not from an outside source, within yourself, of learning how to complete a project or how to manage your time. If you're trying to be a writer but you have a 9-to-5 job, how are you gonna squeeze that in?
exactly. What was your relationship with filmmaking before you making your animated shorts? Because like on your IMDb page, you have like some short films that you made in 2013, but were they, like those were just for fun, or like those weren't like serious attempts, or what were they?
The first real filmmaking or being on set I ever had was at this ad agency I worked at. So shooting commercials and that sort of stuff. Lightly being a PA for them, then being a script supervisor, then writing some of our spots, then directing some of our spots. So that was a really organic progression of like seeing the whole medium of shooting anything being made, seeing shoot days, just the vibe of what that feels like and all that sort of stuff. But even before that, when I was like making those shorts, that was just kind of fun, dicking around on the internet stuff of like just doing it to do it. I kind of, while I was in college, so like 2008 to 2000 or 2007 to 2011. I graduated in 2011. Whatever 11 minus 4 is, 2007 is when I started.
That's it.
That was kind of like the proliferation of like not only MySpace blogs but Tumblr blogs and just even Twitter and stuff, where I started to see, Penn Ward, who created Adventure Time, his personal blog. I started to see Dan Harmon's personal blog and all these sort of things where I realized that TV writers existed, first of all, and that show creators existed, and that that is a world I can get in eventually. And they would have little it's definitely not the way it was now, where you could Google story structure and get a gazillion different things, or how to be a TV writer and all that sort of stuff. So it was like an early behind the scenes look at how the whole sausage was made of television and that sort of form of art. And making animated stuff it felt closest to stuff I was doing already, with just making ad campaigns and building decks and stuff to pitch ads and all that sort of stuff. Because it was all on my computer, and it was all Photoshop, Illustrator, Final Cut Pro, and then just being able to house all that in there. And again, build aesthetic and build branding of it, of whatever the piece is. It was just fun, easy exercises of going like, here's a small thing. Here's a small thought I've had. Here's a small story I want to tell.
Yeah, that's awesome that even like you kind of looked after Dan Harmon's work and you eventually got to work with him on your own show too. How was that, like getting in touch with him after you kind of learned from him indirectly, I guess?
He didn't really work on animals. I just want to clarify that. We worked with his animation studio, so he owned Starburns that we worked with, but
didn't he act in one of the episodes?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
oh, you mean in that respect?
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, no, not at all. And plus, I mean, we worked in the same building, so I would see him a lot and stuff. And yeah, he's great. He's a phenomenally funny genius. Really,
yeah, it's weird seeing him in person acting. Like I see him on stage sometimes, like just riffing about films, but seeing him acting, I don't see it that much. So it was cool to see him.
Yeah, he's great. And there's been kind of this swing back of like the Rick and Morty world, where like they just blew it with the Szechuan sauce and stuff, and it became so overwrought, and like really bad parts of the internet took that show over. But I was obsessed with Community when that was on NBC and all that sort of stuff. And even Rick and Morty early on, I was super obsessed with that. Still am. Yeah, the guy's a stud. Guy's a freaking stud.
Yeah, you got to work with a bunch of great people, and some your biggest collaborator, Mike. How do you say his last name? I butcher it every time.
Luciano. Yeah, it's borderline racist how bad you are at pronouncing Italian last names.
How do you say yours? Did I butcher yours already?
Matarese.
Matarese, okay. Matarese. It's
Yeah,
Matarese.
okay.
I'm gonna slap myself when I
How do
turn
you
over
say
the
your
show.
last name? That's an odd one. Teyssier.
It, it's actually Teyssier, but
Teyssier.
the Americans screwed up in Tisher for them. So if you want to be American, Tisher, but
Teyssier.
Teyssier. Yeah.
It's a cool name.
Yeah. Thank you, Matarese. Thank you, Mr. Matarese. But yeah, you and Mike, what was his kind of contribution on the project initially? Because you said like you're the Final Cut guy and you created the show initially in Final Cut, and that's how you edited and animated it. But did he just bring his comedic side to it? Because he's more the comedian before the show began, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not.
no, he just he pushed the ball. Long story short, he's the one who like pushed the ball forward with animals, and always was like, this could be a TV show. I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have broadened it all the way to where it went without him. I think in that respect, um, he's just a psycho like that, where yeah, he really saw it from the beginning, and we never would really share it outside of the two of us, but it was a special. It made it honestly just the best part of having any sort of partnership is that you have a little gang, and now when you're pitching something, now it's two of us. Now it's like we're making each other laugh, and it's like, do you want to get in on our gang because we're having a ton of fun over here? So that amongst other things.
Yeah, because it is a very funny show,
Thank you.
but behind it is the story, and the stories enhance everything throughout it. Because I I never had HBO when I was younger, but with HBO Max and the new deal that they have, where like they're releasing all their films, how good that is for the film industry, that's a whole other conversation. But I have HBO now, and I can watch Animals. And it's there's like pirated versions on YouTube, and you can do all that. But I can actually watch it, and that's how I stumbled upon your show.
Oh, cool.
And I think this is kind of bringing a whole new audience probably to Animals, because HBO Max is really like they're growing their animated
Big time.
shows. Yeah, a
Yeah, they
lot.
just announced like 4 new things.
And they were like JG Quintel. He's one of the animated guys that I really look up to.
Yep.
And they renewed his show up to season 3, but season 2 hasn't even released yet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's just bringing it's probably bringing a lot new eyes to Animals and all those animated shows, because HBO like never really had adult animation. Like they had.
We were like the second show. It was Life and Times of Tim, and then it was us.
Yeah, I did some research, and they had Spawn too, and then there was like some other weird one called.
Yeah, but that was in the smutty HBO.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago. So you really had a big step to climb with like the amount of just eyes that weren't attracted to adult animation on HBO Max. They're not on HBO. They weren't really looking for that on HBO, which sucks because it's a really interesting show.
Thank you.
I know I'm not asking a question here, but
no, yeah, it was a strange time of streaming for sure. Like I remember they told us they were going to debut it on HBO Go, like during season 2. Like they were going to start debuting it a day early on HBO Go. Or maybe it would have been season 1, I forget, to bolster the platform. And I remember we were like despicable. How dare you disrespect us like that on a website? You want our show to go up? But now it's like it's all on my TV. You know, every streaming thing is just there's no difference. It's it is cool, and it was it was it was wild because we were an HBO show when it was just HBO, and it was like peak Game of Thrones fervor and all that sort of stuff. So it was just very strange. It was all very strange
Yeah.
and super cool, but it definitely was an off kilter choice on their part. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna knock them for it though.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna knock them for that.
Because the show reminds me a lot of one of my favorite shows, like South Park. And I've heard you in the past say you're a big fan of what Matt and Trey do.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever gotten to talk to them about their like creative process and just talk to them about South Park?
I got dinner with Matt once. That was cool with a couple people, but didn't really talk to him about process of
Yeah.
stuff. It was more just a regular thing, but I
Yeah.
told him how much I care about him.
Yeah, that's awesome because I heard you say that you used to watch his show when you were younger, and
Yeah.
that kind of inspired you to your comedic style, I guess.
Yeah, they little tidbit, they have a really good 3-minute storytelling short that was for like some MTV show where they went into a classroom and did a much better job than I'm doing of explaining story, right, and telling and all that sort of stuff. But if anyone wants to hear how they write stuff, it's all about how fluidly they are able to connect things with, like, it has to be therefore to connect scenes. It's got to be the word therefore or the word but, and you can't have just and then, because then it's just something happening and then something happening. So that's something I kind of ingrained into my DNA when I'm writing shit pretty early on. But it was like, just Google like Matt and Trey MTV writing, and you can find that. It's really quick and smooth.
Yeah,
The
they
way
walk
say.
into NYC, Tisch School, and their alma mater. No, I don't know if it's their alma mater, but they walk in
I think they
there.
went to Boulder.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that's a really cool thing for aspiring writers to watch, and definitely would help you. Uh, After you got picked up by HBO Max and you gained, I'm assuming, a larger crew other than just you and Mike to do the animation process, did you miss like working on the animation hands on like you formerly did with the first two episodes?
Uh, yeah, it is very cool, and it's so you just imbue it. I mean, you're literally taking it and you're making it do everything you want it to. It's a dream come true, especially if you like really get into the dialogue and you can add like 3 different jokes while a joke is being said of just small visual cues. But also it's a lot of work, and I don't do it. I still don't know how to do it right. I did it in a weird way that I wouldn't even recommend to anybody. So it was a lot of making the show was learning how to delegate and learning how to say no and here's why, and learning how to say yes, that's good, but not quite, here's why, and doing that hundreds of times a day with designs, with animation, with acting, all that sort of stuff. And just making sure that you're articulating yourself clearly. It's tough. It was tough doing a kind of lower budget animated show where, season 1 we had the entirety of the staff in-house, and then season 2 we used an animation studio, and then season 3 we used a different animation studio. So each season had its new kind of, we got better and better at it for sure, but it definitely production wise, it was always, there was the Q1 of each semester of making the season was always getting to know everybody and process all that sort of stuff and staying ahead of schedule. But I do miss it, all of it.
Why do you think the consistency changed each season with the animation production
From
studio to studio?
I think that it's not Not necessarily. I wouldn't say the consistency of our show changed. If anything, I think our show ended up looking better and better
No,
as
I
it
just
went on.
mean like moving studios. Like, why didn't just like
Just
once you
money,
got working with one, just money?
budget stuff.
Yeah.
You know, some places have their hands too full. Basically, some things we learned from one season to another. We realize you just the process was always evolving. We were all Starburns is a seasoned studio, but a lot of us on it were kind of on the fly, um, in our own way. But we did it. We got it done. Always on time and under budget.
Yeah, it's nice how they stuck to your deck from like the first episode and first few episodes. Like the whole visual style doesn't change even the finest like intricacies from my eye at least. And I'm sure for you, you can see maybe things that stick out that you wouldn't have done. But for me at least, it's pretty consistent. I didn't mean that, but
yeah.
Did you write the animals for their storylines? I was wondering because there's the storylines are really good from episode to episode, the standalone stories. Like sometimes though, from what I've seen, you could probably alternate a different animal for this story. So other than like the gags and the jokes. So did you write the stories for the animals or how'd that go?
We sometimes, you know, like for instance, we had an episode that was the A story was about these worms, and then there was a B story with these birds, and then the C story was with these possums, all on this one tree. So that started as Mike and I starting with that, with the animals and this sort of confines of that. And then another one was we really wanted to do squirrels, and the idea is that they inside the tree is their apartment building. So kind of stemming out from that. But then, you know, with rats or sometimes pigeons, it was just sort of evergreen, fun storylines. You know, it was an anthology show, so each episode, aside from some overarching storylines, each episode is its own little movie. So we would just really try to, and sometimes it would stem from that of like, what if I want to do a big action roaches movie send up? So like, what's a cool Armageddon kind of thing we can do, end of the world sort of thing, with some fucking roaches. So a mixture of everything, you know. It was really the whatever really got across the best 22 to 26 minute story we wanted to tell, these little tiny movies.
Did those overarching stories, like you said, did they help you think of what episodes are we going to put into these 10 like stories that we have?
Yeah, I mean, season 3 we kind of ended up breaking format too, where it did become more of a serialized show in that regard. But for the bulk of the show, not really. It was more thinking of like especially with a show that has sketches in it too. Thinking of our show like for 30 minutes you're turning into the Animals TV network, where it's like sometimes just weird interstitials, and there's this overarching thing that we're checking in on, almost like a news report. But here's a story that we're going to show at 11:30 on Fridays on HBO.
Yeah, it's just the style of it is really refreshing to see on HBO nowadays. Now that I have HBO Max, the one joke that I saw, or my bad, did Pescico? I'm assuming came from Joe Pesci, right?
I'm actually not legally obligated
Oh,
or
really? Okay,
able,
my bad.
whatever the term is.
You can neither confirm or deny. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I am pleading the fifth.
And there's a lot of stuff in there. Not like that at least, but you have a lot of like one of my favorite jokes from there is like from the second to last episode, you have like Marvel
Funny.
movies with the posters and like football posters, but they're just black. So, like, was that just because you couldn't have Marvel movie posters and like NFL posters, or
Yeah.
was that?
No, it was because I wanted that. Because it
Yeah,
was funny to me.
yeah,
Almost every single choice on animals was because it was funny to me.
that
And
it's
so
just so
every
weird.
inch of it I would pack with things that we did because it was funny to me.
That was funny to me too, just because the oddness of it, and
Yeah.
it
I mean,
stood out.
obviously it's sending up the idea of spoof posters that you see in TV shows and all that sort of stuff. But any thinking behind having it be so simple like that and all that sort of stuff. It's just the fun. To me, was the funniest thing. I've never seen that played out like that before.
And just to ask my production designer to have a Marvel movie,
Yeah.
like I don't even know how to describe. Did you like sketch that out for him, or did you have to describe that?
No, I just told her black, super simple font. Maybe I mocked it up. Probably not. The anytime we did a live action episode, it was so hectic. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite moments that I have right now. When you were recording with the studio, how did you make the voice actors more comfortable? Because the first few seasons, well, the first season at least, it was in that apartment where you had 2 rooms. How it was just a small room. So what did you and Mike do to just get the voice actors in there, mind space to be comfortable, and to get those least like comically voices, like you said earlier? Like you don't want those voices. You want natural, real voices.
Right. Man, even just reading this question, I realized how much I hated it. I didn't hate it. I was nervous. Like we had like 300 guests on animals, and every time I was nervous. It didn't matter who it was, but something about it, the whole idea. I'm not really an actor, but I'm kind of an actor. I'm not really a director, but I'm kind of a director.
Can't say that anymore, Phil.
Yeah, I know. I fucking dug my own grave. Now I got to sleep in it. However that saying goes. But again, that's a benefit of having a co-creator on the show, or at least someone who's running the ship with you, is that you get to present an energy from the get-go. It's being chill, and the whole it's like pitching. It's like working with people, being an actor, being behind the camera. All of it just comes down to like being an authentic version of yourself. And we never like kissed anybody's ass or anything like that. We never grandstanded or I don't know, put on kid gloves for anybody who was like super famous or anything like that. I think as soon as you set a vibe of like, this is gonna be fun, it's gonna be fucking stupid, and it's gonna be super low stakes and very easy for you, and you could show up in your pajamas, and at the end of the day you'll get whatever $900 check, and it'll be on fucking HBO. It just created an environment that was completely fail safe in that respect. If someone wasn't as entertainment focused, or at least acting focused, we would write out more lines for them, or improv focused, I should say. We would write out more lines for them. But but generally it's just about making that vibe and just presenting yourself as yourself. I think in any regards, making stuff, especially in film and TV and all that, that was one of the big things I learned from working in advertising and pitching a lot 3 times a week to get gigs. I saw some of the older guys at the company, they were just like never not themselves. They were the exact same dude at the bar afterwards. They were the exact same dude in the pitch room. They were the exact same dude uh, at 9 a.m. when we were getting coffee.
Wow.
And
It's
dudettes.
just, yeah,
Dudes and dudettes.
dudes and dudettes. How did you write the dialogue for the characters? Because, like you said, you had to add more for certain actors to make them feel more comfortable. So, as a baseline, before you knew what they're comfortable with, was it very broad strokes?
On animals specifically,
Yeah.
it was whatever served the scene and whatever
Okay.
moved it forward. Early on, it would be a very short treatment that we would go off of, and it was way improvised. The show, it was like super. Let's see what happens in each one of these scenes, knowing where it's going to end up. But then later on, we just liked writing more, so it ended up being more and more written and bigger outlines that we would go off of that were just weird scripts almost. I don't know. I honestly think dialogue is one of those things where it's either you're really good at it and it comes effortlessly, or you should just like maybe be a novelist instead of a voice-driven medium. I don't know. Something about it is anytime there's like advice or anything like that in that world, I just don't get why you would need it. It's so easy to talk. It's so easy to make people talk. It's so easy to. That's my favorite part is that. And not to toot my own horn saying that I'm one of those people that's perfect at it, but it's definitely what I'm best at versus structure, fucking, anything like that.
Yeah, I can tell that by just what you said early on. You want the real effortless stuff, and
Mm.
you can tell that in the early episodes because it's mostly you and Mike. So I assume that it was very like free, the script. It let you do what you want, and
Yeah.
it leads to those very small words that make a big difference, and the audience can tell that this isn't staged.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah, especially when it was Phil and Mike scenes, we had tons of time in the booth to record and didn't mind chopping up hours of our own tape because we could, because we just could,
Yeah. Early on in the process, did you and Mike, were you learning how to like direct the actors like and not step over each other's toes, or did you have enough chemistry before like season 1 to know who was going to take the lead here? And
I think, yeah, directing in general is just kind of this. I don't like it.
okay.
I like working with people. I like being a creative collaborator, but I think it's not my favorite thing to do. But it is just like immersion therapy, where it's the more you do it, the better you are at it, and the less awkward it feels. And it's mostly asking people to do things for you and to tweak things for you. So it's just a matter of learning how to politely and quickly and clearly articulate what you're looking for out of the performance, or even if it's a specific word, asking for that. VO is a whole different VO directing is a whole different thing than actual directing. It is, so you're almost an acting coach at that point, which is kind of an odd thing to do when the person is super fucking famous and this is your only thing and will be your only thing ever, forever. So there's no, we'll just breeze past that. I don't think that. I hope not.
I hope not either.
But it all goes back to that same thing too of like, how did you set up the room? How are they feeling? Are they having a stress day? You know, I remember one time we had someone call in on a Skype from New York, and like the booth was fucked up over there and the sound was just weird and the actor was super flustered, and it was one of those things where we're like, should we call this off? Like, this just doesn't seem like it's working. And like, I don't know who we worked with in New York. It was some shithead producer on that end that was like fucking up the vibes big time. But it ended up, I forget what happened, but like, I made a joke and then Mike made a joke and we all were like, whoa, and we were taking off and we were good. We're just like, they just needed to hear like from us, like the essence of like, here's what it is. This is our show. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you to safety. We're going to deliver these presents for Christmas.
And that must have been a frequent thing, like recording from New York back to LA, and just the lack of control that you guys had to control the atmosphere could really like damage the performance, I think.
Could, but never really, honestly, never really did. It was all very doable, you know, and I think with those sessions, we built it in really, you know, you just take their script, you make it so clear each thing, and you just have to be ultra clear with them, and honestly quicker, like a Zoom, you know, you've been in Zoom meetings, it's terrible, and the attention is just not there and all that sort of stuff, and we didn't put out hummus for them, like they don't have the hummus high. So yeah, but it's been good. Now every show I'm pretty sure does that, because we can't be in the same room together or we'll kill each other.
Very true. Just for my sake, is there an origin behind the Lois Griffin gag, or was it just something that you and Mike created?
No, it's just so funny that little Jacob Pigeon would be so horny for Lois Griffin. It made me laugh. Again, it just made me laugh. And so it was this guy, I think it was at the beginning of the episode that
he's playing his video game.
He's playing his video game, and somehow there's a Family Guy poster in the room, something like that. And then we kind of wrote it in like as a dummy ending that Lois becomes this guardian angel to him. And then we were like, hey, Jen, our producer. And I feel so bad now looking back at like all these insurmountable hurdles that we would throw her way. But it was like, can we get Alex Bornstein to voice Lois Griffin on our show? A major primetime network cartoon on a different network, to do a cameo with the actress on our show. She made it happen. And they even gave us the rigs and everything and all that sort of stuff. Alex was super cool. She was in front of me doing Lois Griffin. It was so wild. That was just as Family Guy was just as formative for me as South Park, if not more.
You don't see those cross-network cameos that often, so congrats on pulling that off, and to your producer for being the real pro there.
She is. She's a G.
Was there a script that like you thought of in season 1 that took a while to really formulate? Because I know you only have like 2 months to form all 10 scripts. So was there like a concept that you couldn't get right for a long time, but in like season 3 it finally came to fruition?
Yeah, there was definitely stuff that we let die. We had a fish episode that we always wanted to do, an entirely fish-based episode, and Mike was It was the 70s too, so it was like Serpico and all that sort of stuff. And Mike was this hard-nosed cop, and I was like a hippie cop. So I had on a bell bottom, which is funny because it looks like a fish's tail. And Mike is like a down on his luck cop. And we went on, so it was this whole journey of like, we're finding who this one fish murderer is that's been like, absolutely terrorizing the goannas and his signatures. He cuts off their tails. He cuts off his victims' tails. And then, Mike's fish, this old grizzled cop fish, has been put behind the desk for years and years. This is his first time out in the field because when he was a younger cop, he accidentally shot a pedestrian fish, this kid, and kind of handicapped him a little bit. And then in the end of the episode, it turns out that my fish was the killer the whole time. And I take off my bell bottoms and I have no tail because Mike was the cop that handicapped me when I was a kid. And this was me getting revenge on him. And I got his daughter hostage and stuff. And then he kills me. So that was a good episode that we wanted to make for a while. We had trouble with, it always was tough. And Mike and I would be quiet for about 2 full days on an episode that we would be stuck. If it was, I can't remember anyone specifically, but I do remember it happening several times where we would just be stuck with it on the whiteboard, a whiteboard with the 3 acts. That's all we did. We had no real structure. It was just act 1, act 2, act 3. But we would be quiet for a few days and we would resent each other, or at least I resented him. I can't speak for him, but we would get seething mad at each other and then something would just happen and it would come. It was just like a weird, magical little duo ship we had. Some were just easier than others, long story short, but it always came.
What happened to the fish one though? Was it just had 10 episodes and you couldn't get it down in time? Or
yeah, a lot of times it was 10 episodes and then it was just like, where do we put this one? And passion outweighs the downside, the including one just because it's cool or just because we haven't done that episode yet. Like, yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to see it someday if anything ever happens. And I know you're a busy guy, Phil, and the optimist in me likes to think that with all the stuff that HBO Max, they're trying to pull out all the stops. They're trying to they got like anime from Japan, the Crunchyroll on their service. They have a bunch of really niche stuff, and they're getting a bunch of animation. Do you think that there's any chance that HBO Max will bring a second life to animals? And
I don't know. Who knows, man? Who knows? I would love to. If they want to, I'm totally down. Season 3 was wrapping up and they announced HBO Max, so it was every single person we had worked with kind of got reshifted or moved around or anything like that. So it was just kind of a tumultuous time over there anyway, to be brought back and to be brought back in that landscape that early. Now that they have a more of an identity for HBO Max and all that sort of stuff, it would be cool. I could see it happening. I get it. I see it strategically. Also, if it doesn't happen, I'm still always infinitely grateful that we got to do 3 seasons of it. I think it's a beautiful little weird show that kind of always alive as long as me and Mike are alive. We're more or less those characters.
Oh yeah,
Our next things are imbued with much of the same energy and essence, I think.
definitely. Just yeah, seeing those shows on there with animals, it really. I'm glad it's just not lost. It has a home on HBO Max at least, and people can always watch it on there, which is awesome.
Blessings.
Yeah. And I also saw that you like filmed a short film during COVID called The Spookening. So what's the story behind that, Phil? Can you tell me?
The spook. My friend Emily Dubovy directed it, and her friends wrote it, and asked me to be in it. That wasn't in COVID though, so that wasn't. I've done some shoots during COVID, and it's been more or less the same, but everyone has masks on, and there's kind of new things and all that sort of stuff. It seems like shooting indie kind of stuff would be not doable. One weird thing was happening was I was in a scene with some people, 3 people, and this one guy in the scene, because you have to, unless we're shooting, you have to have your mask on. So all day you're talking to people in masks and stuff. And for like 2 takes, none of us in the scene, no one behind the camera, no one around noticed that one of the guys in the scene had his mask on, a big white mask on his face. So it was this very odd facial blindness, or at least melding with the masks happened, where it was kind of this thing of like he was like, oh wait, I have my mask on. I was like, whoa, you do have your mask on, and everyone's like, whoa, he does have his mask on. Like that's kind of, it was oddly tragic in its own way. Yeah, that was just a weird thing that happened.
It took that long to become
normal.
normal.
Couple shots.
It's a couple shots. Wow. And it's weird because you kind of said that before all this, you didn't think of yourself as an actor, and now you're kind of, you're working with a friend, but you're acting. You kind of have the lead role in that short. Who knows if we'll see? I'll see it someday. It might be in some festivals or something, but I just saw that on your IMDb.
Let me just see. Yeah, it's out. It's on Vimeo.
Vimeo, okay. I'll check it out.
Check it. What were you asking?
Oh no, yeah, it was just really cool because you didn't see yourself as an actor before Animals and all this, but now you kind of have the leading role in The Spookening. So
yeah,
nice on your part.
It's all friend stuff too. Like I got, the more you're kind of in the mix of stuff and making stuff, you just end up being friends with people, and they become fans of you, and you become fans of them. And then, you know, I'm shooting this thing on Saturday, I think, that a friend of mine put me in a commercial, and she was in the commercial with me, but she was also director of stuff, so she's been putting me in stuff, and I was in one of her shorts. We just had a good time, and it is just kind of like putting up the hours of being out here and not grossly networking, but making friends, basically, I should say.
Yeah, and you've been out there long enough by now, I think. But like, what are you doing next, Phil? Because before the Fox merger, I heard you were working on a lot of stuff, like future projects for them. I'm sure you can't talk about it. I don't know if they got like canceled because of the merger with Disney, but how are your projects going aside from your stuff with your friends?
Yeah, good.
Pitch. Are you still working with Mike?
Yeah, me and Mike got stuff on the burner together. Still Fox stuff going. We're producing a thing. And then we've got this other Fox thing. It's not Fox, kind of a Fox thing too, because there's Fox Broadcasting and then there's Fox 20th.
Yeah.
So we kind of we're cooking up stuff with both of them. So taking that stuff out still. I pitched a show in October that I'm kind of developing now. And other than that, just that's been keeping me busy, all that stuff, getting more stuff going, writing a movie, just busy. Work every day on my little cartoons, getting the next things out there. Work every day on my little movies and all my stuff, getting all my stuff out there. I don't stop. The bus is a bomb.
What script writing service do you use, Phil? Just off the top of my head, what do you use?
I use Final Draft.
Final Draft? Everyone
But I'll
really
tell you,
uses Final Draft.
I use
Fade-In, but
Fade-In. Interesting.
yeah.
What is that? Adobe?
No, it's just the little stepsister to Final Draft.
Is it free?
It has a demo version for that's free, but I paid $50 for it. It's the Final Draft's a bit more expensive, so
yeah, it's super expensive. Every time I get a new freaking computer, I gotta shell out whatever it is, $100, $200.
It's like upwards of 200. Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah, I use Final Draft. Me and Mike, years and years, Google Drive, nonstop. I use Google Drive more than Word. I've ever used Word, more than I use Final Draft. I'm constantly in that. The only downside is that it's in your browser, so you're so close to Twitter. You're so close to other social media sites, but it so simply is on every one of my devices. I'm constantly moving from this computer, my desktop, to my laptop, or if I'm out somewhere using my laptop other places. And yeah, that was always so brutal. It's like saving copies of stuff and then rewriting stuff or overwriting stuff, and Google Drive was kind of the best place to, definitely is the best place to collaborate with someone else. It's so simple. The notes and all that sort of stuff on it is, notating stuff is super easy and clean. But yeah, I don't know why. I kind of got addicted to writing in that.
Yeah, that's what I do too. You don't have to save anything.
Yes, that too.
Yeah, it's so nice. Anything that's on a script, I use Google Drive or just Docs. My final question for you, Phil, is what advice do you have for anyone working at an advertising agency right now who wants to create an animated series?
At an ad agency?
Just something similar to your situation.
It's I think it's just a matter of not getting inundated with how the programs work, not killing yourself over time it's going to take, or definitely the learning. A lot of times over learning stops me from doing things, of like structure of writing a feature or something like that will often get me, I'll get so mired in that I won't write it. So I think figure out the easiest way for you to create something, and just start banging them out, dude. Don't send them to anybody. Like you with your notes app, just like do it for yourself, but to keep tabs on how your progress is on something. And secondly, don't make it look shitty. And if it looks shitty, like my stuff looked, make it look stylized in such a way, and really have timing down. If you should know style of like something's aesthetic. You can have something that's under animated that isn't beautifully drawn even, but it should have style to it. Make sure that your shit has a fucking steez to it, or else it's just gonna get lost in the shuffle of like bad art. Don't make bad art. Don't make stuff that doesn't have style. So even if you're thinking around for yourself, look at different sorts of art. Go to go to a bookstore and look at high-end art. Look at odd stuff that's not even close to the medium you would work with. Make a photo collage thing. Make a something new, something with texture. I hate bad stuff.
Is there any way to find your early shitty like prototype animal animations?
Yeah, it
Like
was bad, but it was stylized.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, now it's very 2011 looking, but at the time I made a very, in my opinion, pretty highly stylized short. That was cool. That was sound designed well, as well as it could be, and that had style to it. Yeah, you should know how to lay in a little bit of sound design. You should know how to make it sound kind of good. You should know. I didn't know how to animate, but I knew the mechanics of comedic timing. So but I think first and foremost, have something that doesn't look like shit. Look at
Yeah.
good stuff. Doesn't look like shit.
Just find something unique. Try to find your voice and make it polished, like you're saying.
I
Right?
think yeah. Definitely I think no matter what, you'll know your voice if you're writing it down, if you're have the script of the thing, but spend some time on making something unique looking that doesn't feel schlocked together, even if it is schlocked together.
Thank you so much, Phil, for letting us steal an hour of your time.
Cool.
And oh yeah, we're honored and best of luck to you in the future with all the stuff you do. Because I'm looking forward to it. I really like your comedic voice and
Thank you.
just your voice for story in general. You and Mike.
Thanks.
So I
I'll
look
tell
forward
you
to it.
that.
And I'm gonna check out the spookening to see your acting
Got
prowess,
the
how it's grown.
spooky.
So thank you everyone for watching. Everyone in the future, good night. And do you have an ending poem for us? Like how
Ending
you
what?
started? Like an
Promo?
ending poem? Like you
Oh, an
started
ending
with
poem.
you
Ending.
started with a beautiful one. So
Ending. Ding. Who is that? It's my doorbell. You know who's there? A new opportunity. You can't spell opportunity without purity. Think of the whole of reality, and where do you exist inside that? You and me, reality.
thank you.